Just more of maybe an observation. I've had jobs, including the present one, where there are a lot of energy drainers, a lot of tedious tasks to be done. I expect some of that in any job, but I seem to get situations where it's a very heavy proportion of this tedious stuff. I just wanted to throw out suggestions for dealing with that, kind of getting past that, getting in a situation where there's less of the tedium.
So two things. In your current job, there's great work by a woman named Amy Raninsky about job crafting. And if you just search for the word Amy and job crafting, you'll find it. She has a very long spelling of her last name. She's from Yale School of Management. And she talks a lot about how to rethink your job. She's also worked with Michigan School of Business. And she talks about tasks, meaning, and relationships. And within tasks, particularly to get at what Kenneth is talking about, is with tasks, again, if there is absolutely nothing and those menial tasks are there, you're going to.
That was Amy, and what else?
If you look for the word Amy in job crafting.
Job crafting. Okay.
Yeah, you'll get the spelling of her last name. She's from Yale School of Management. It's a very long last name.
Okay.
And so she'll talk about task, meaning, and relationships. And she has very specific activities that you can do around this. But for example, with tasks, some of the things like we know you cannot avoid, right? So in your next job, certainly it's talking about how are you doing informational interviews in advance of the job so you actually have a better understanding of that job. You know, during the job interview, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. They might not tell you about some of that mundane stuff. So I'm a big fan of as much informational interviewing and getting a sense of that in advance. But if you're in the job, she talks a lot about, you know, what are the within the tasks, what are some things that you can, you know, make more efficient? What are some tasks that you could trade off from other people? So, you know, sometimes it's, you know, I did this actually several years ago with a colleague with some of the reporting that I needed to do, which is not a strength of mine. And I actually had him do some of that and I took something off of his plate. So we did a little task swapping. Again, not always can be a case, but we did some task swapping. Sometimes some of the things that I've had other people do that I was doing that were mundane were really not something I had to do, but because I had to let go of my own control about it and be okay with it. It's also sometimes taking the time, as you know, with tasks, looking at, does it really need to be at 100%, or is anybody going to notice if it's done at 85%? Like, so it's looking at some of that. So again, it's task, relationship, and meaning. With the work around meaning, she's really looked at seeing the bigger purpose to what you're doing can really help with tasks and people having, you know, making more meaning in their work. One of the studies I think came from her was really interesting. It was people who were reading the mammograms. When they included the picture of the patient, there was a decline in errors made. So just the meaning of seeing someone's face. So thinking about for you, what would bring you more meaning? Around relationships and toxic people, I have had tons of experience with that in some previous jobs. One of the things that I've done based on some of the work that I've read from her that really helps me, and this is just for me because I got really affected by people's energy. When that person would talk to me, I know it sounds funny, but I would just envision a giant like bell jar going around me. So I could hear them, but I was able to just calmly sit there and just listen. So I would do that. I also, with another colleague years ago that was really antagonistic, underneath the table, I would twiddle my thumbs. And that distracted me enough to allow him to say what he was saying, to allow me to pause so I could respond to him because I was reacting to him. And my reaction caused his reaction and reaction. So just doing something as simple as that diffused a situation. So she has some really interesting work with job crafting, also around work orientation that is very fascinating.